one thing that would help me, which is something that I've been wanting to do for such a long time. I've been wanting to do it for such a long time, and no one's talking to me, so no one's helped me. I want to kind of prove that I think that we're living in some sort of world where everyone just ignores me. I think a lot of people might say, oh, you can just go into a church and, tell people that you're Christ. And, I would love to actually just like wear hidden cameras and go into a church. I wanted to go into like maybe even 100 churches so that it's not just one specific, but I would like to film people's reaction to me without before I rise. There are lots of things that I want to do, because I can say all this, that I feel like the world is just ignoring me, and I could say it and people just don't believe me. Oh, you didn't try hard enough, you didn't put enough adverts, you didn't actually go into the churches, you didn't actually. And it's true, I haven't gone into that many churches because I know that it's going to amount to the same thing. And I don't even know what to make of it, because I feel like there's something that's inside someone's head or someone's spirit, and it will get them to say certain things. And I had one conversation yesterday with someone, and I felt like she said some intelligent things, but at the end I also remember this woman saying some incredibly stupid things when we're in a group of people. And it makes me wonder, like, is the good things that she said, was it actually her who was talking, or was it just my higher self? I think I was talking about the tariffs and what, I've heard. She said some good things that I agreed with, but I've also heard the same woman say some really unintelligent things, and it just kind of made me feel like I wasn't talking to her, but rather that there was a spirit inside of her that was making her say certain things that were in truth intelligent. But I almost felt like if I got up and walked somewhere else and she was to have the same conversation with someone else, that she would say completely different things. And I don't know, it's just, how there's I don't know, I saw the thing yesterday was talking about background people, and there's some people that are just on earth placed solely to just be a background person. And I don't know how much truth there is to that, but I feel like this there is some truth to that. Like, a lot of people are just background people, and say if you're in a film and you start talking to the background people, you would get a response, and maybe you'd even get an intelligent response. But if that same background person just goes off and has the same conversation with someone else, because they're no longer in the film, they have like some just some conversation that makes absolutely no sense. And I've lived in such a strange world where I found out I was Christ in 2013. I believed there was a whole bunch of people who knew. I thought they were making songs about me, changing the dates to make it look like they wrote the song before me. I was convinced that they were doing that because they were about to expose me as being Christ, and they were trying to just add to the number of songs that were about me and change the dates to make it look more impressive, that wow, we were making prophecies about her when really we were doing things about her whilst we know her. But that's what I was convinced was happening. And it's horrible that year after year after year after year nothing happened. So I have no idea why they did any of that. And the more more time goes on, the more intelligent I think I become, because I'm looking and I'm reading and I'm learning stuff. But a huge portion of what I'm learning is, it feels like that we're living in some sort of computer, that humans are just, they don't know what they are. How Britney Spears was 20 years ago, she seemed talented and fun and just a long list of positive things, and now she just looks like she's not real, and maybe she was just like a puppet or something. These are real things that I'm thinking, and I feel like I have some evidence to back it up. But at the same time, I am I would like to test it. I would like to test my theories, and to put myself in a position where I go into churches and start talking to them about me being Christ, and find out how they would respond. But at the same time, I feel like they might respond differently if it's me versus if it's someone else who comes in. So maybe that could be another test that I could do. Get someone that's blonde who knows everything or knows a lot of things about me, and see if they can go in and say the same things that I just said, like repeat what I said, and see if they get a different response. I don't see humans as being humans. I see them as just souls that have, okay, some have had more lives than others, and I don't know, but I don't see myself as being similar to them. And I feel like if I see a ghost, I'm not convinced that it's actually a ghost, or if it's just my higher self pretending to be a ghost. And I feel like because I know that I'm God, or I know that my higher self lives outside time and she's trying to inspire imagination, I feel like I see things very differently. But other people might generally still see ghosts. So I don't know what a ghost is. I know they're real because I've seen them, but are they real, or is it just something that you see because your mind is playing tricks on you? When you're having a dream, I think your mind starts seeing things, and technically you're not seeing anything. All the things that you're seeing in a dream, you're not actually seeing it, and therefore, in a way, you could see dreams as being a type of ghost. You're seeing things, people, places, films, or whatever. You're seeing it all in your mind, but you're not actually seeing it in your mind, and therefore, is that considered a ghost? These things that you're seeing in your dream, they're not real people, they're just things that you're creating. And so maybe a ghost is just as similar to like a dream, only a daydream. So a dream that you have when you're, once or twice I have had a dream while still being awake, and I'm just lying in bed, and then I start like seeing, it's almost like I see pictures or shadings in the eye, in the eyelid when it's closed, and then I start like walking into a dream and actually seeing the dream. And then on the other hand, I think this is strange. I'm not actually asleep. I'm wide awake. So why am I seeing this dream? And then I start coming out of it and just being so, there is a lot of things that I don't know about this world, such as what dreams are, such as what ghosts are. And I feel like there's a whole group of people that I don't really, I think people are like robots, and I can say things and people won't believe it. And so I would love to have a camera crew where I actually have interviews or go into a church and say it, and just to see their reaction. But yeah, would they react differently if they're actually looking and talking to Christ? Would there be some spirit inside of them that gets them to say certain things, and yet if someone else did exactly the same thing, they would treat that person very, very differently? I don't know, but I think the purpose of being on earth is to learn things and to teach things as well. And there's a lot of things that I don't know and can't teach, but if I had a film crew that worked with me to try and do stuff, or just think about different things, different tests to do on people, and do that all before exposing me as being Christ. I don't know how people want it to go, but it's just been so long. 12 years, and I don't even know if it's going to end this year. I noticed though that my birthday happens to be on Good Friday, next Easter, and I feel like that's done for a reason. Isn't Jesus supposed to die on the birthday? That's significant. That's the day Jesus died is supposed to be what's on my birthday next year. And I think it's happened once. I'm sure it's happened once in the last 12 years. Why it didn't happen then, why nothing happened then, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. But this world is not what it seems. And I'm very, very confused because I don't know who knows about me, and I'm sure there are lots of people who are sort of in the half stage of, wow, I did 100% believe Christianity was the truth 10 years ago, and now I'm feeling foolish. I'm pretty sure there's lots of people, and they might be worried that they might be the ones that come back. I'm sure there's a lot of people that now believe that I'm Christ and God, and they were very supportive of abortion back then. But I have to admit, I didn't realize the world was in as bad a state as it was 12 years ago. 12 years ago, I knew there was some bad people, and I knew the world wasn't very nice, but I was convinced that all I needed to do was just expose myself, and it would be fine, and it didn't pan out that way. and my view on humans has just been getting worse and worse. Hence, my support towards abortion has grown and grown and grown. And you know, now I think anyone who thinks that you know, anyone who claims to be pro-life and thinks that that is the best choice, you know, now I think they are an absolute moron. Whereas 12 years ago, if you would have been pro-life, I would have just been like, well, yeah, it's I don't know. I guess I would have seen more reason as to why you would be pro-life 12,000 years ago, but 12 years ago. But now that it's like the population has grown, although I think there's a few places where it's shrunk, but I think it's in the poorer countries. The poorer people just keep having more and more kids because you know, they're being taught the wrong thing, which is that it's better to have less kids so that you can be richer and have a better life, and then have to force loads of more kids that you can't afford to look after. You know, that's not how you should live. But yeah, I just I don't know if anything's going to happen this year, and then to think that I'm going to have to live a whole nother year. You know, if I knew that you're going to come to me next month, and I'm not going to bother to try and be let off council tax, because I would just be like, well, you're going to come to me soon, but I don't believe you are, because I see no evidence of it. And then to think that I'm going to, you know, I'm going to go a whole nother year, just I hate, you know, there's people that are working in the government and are earning £100,000, and they believe that that's not enough, and they're trying to get more money, and I'm just thinking that I'm literally living off nothing. You know, I don't spend anything. I've never bought anything in the cinema. When I go to the cinema, it's not even my card, it's my mum's card. But I don't care, because I feel like I'm inspiring the film, so I deserve to have free entry to it. And okay, my mum's paying, but it's like a car where you can invite two people, but really it's supposed to be one person, and whoever that person invites. And well, because me and my mum are living in two different cities, we can't go together. We would go together if we were living in the same city, but I can't afford to live in London, so I've been chucked out. And that's another annoying thing, to know that every single person who is getting housing benefit to live in London, you know, they're getting benefits to live in a place that I want to live, whilst I am not getting benefit, hence can't live in there. So why can't they do what I did? Why are you saying, okay, we'll give you free money, when really they should leave. They should leave, because that's what I did, and that's what's fair. Why should some people be forced out of the city they want to live in, whilst other people just claim benefits? And you know, I think if benefits were just people being let off tax because they don't have enough money to afford their rent, you know, you shouldn't really be counted as rent. If you're paying huge amounts of money on rent and you're only left with £2,000 after rent, then you shouldn't be paying tax. The government need to do more to make sure that their rent isn't this high. If the government really wants to help people, you would be helping people by making sure that 90% of their earnings isn't going on rent, and of course travel as well. That's very expensive. If the government actually cared about the people, they would be doing more to make sure that they actually have £6,000 a year to spend, and not. And if house prices are, you know, £300,000-400,000, and they're only earning 20,000-30,000 a year, they're not earning this money, because this money needs to go into some sort of savings account so that they don't have to constantly be a slave for their whole life. And the government's just not doing anything at all. All the government is doing is just trying to justify getting their £100,000 salary, whilst other people live off £2,000 salaries. You know, I hate the world. I really hate the world.